Okay, welcome to our second introductory video. Our second introductory video is called Giving Feedback. Once again, this is thinking like a geographer, an AP Human Geography test review. Once again, one of the important ideas of doing things online is to allow for lots of people to be involved in the process and lots of people to be available to give positive feedback, criticism, constructive things to help us grow and improve. And so you'll be able to have lots of eyes looking at your writing and looking at your work and being able to help you, give you suggestions and guide you towards improvement. Once again, this is where being active participant and allowing yourself to be critiqued and critiquing others is very important. So let's talk a little bit about giving feedback. All right. First of all, none of us are perfect. We all struggle with writing. We all struggle with the learning process and certain things. If we were perfect, we wouldn't need to learn anything. So we all have room to go and improve, and that's a very important thing to remember as we're moving forward throughout this entire online review experience, is that we're doing this to improve and get better. Once again, one of the online benefits of online course is that there are many different people to help you improve and give you a high five. So Shark and Gorilla, or Han and Chewie, whatever you prefer. So that's this idea of high five, this idea of encouragement, but at the same time helping each other improve as we go. All right. So I'm going to give you some examples of feedback, and I want you to tell me which of the following picture best represents what feedback is and what it looks like. Okay. All right, we've got 4 examples here. So I'm going to pause the video, and I want you to spend about a minute or so looking at each video and decide which one best shows the idea of giving feedback. Okay, let's start with our megaphone man. Is this a good example of how to give and receive feedback? No, it is not. You don't want to be forceful. You don't want to force yourself on people. You want to be communicate in a way that is going to be well received. What about our Facebook dislike? Which, remember, there is no dislike button on Facebook, but if there was, it might look like this. What do we think? Thumbs down. Once again, no, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that our feedback is specific, it is constructive, and it is kind. All right? And it is targeted at the individual. What about our individual in the middle and a whole bunch of people standing around giving feedback? What do you think about that? No, that's not very good either. That also is a little intimidating and not going to be well received. So yes, this is our winner. One-on-one, individual, specific feedback about how individuals can grow and improve. So what are our expectations for giving feedback? It should be specific. Say what it is that you like, things that can be improved on, ideas that you have to help them, and be very, very specific. Don't just say things like, I really like your writing. You're a good writer. Okay, what about their writing is good? What do you like about it? What are some things that they can use to be encouraged about their writing, right? So you may say, I really like the way that you wrote your introduction. It was very clear and concise. Or I really like the way the word that you used here, because it really helped me understand where you were going. So be very specific with that feedback. Or, hey, perhaps you could clarify this point and this point because they seem very similar to me. So giving that idea of specific feedback. Feedback should be about things that can be changed and improved on. If they cannot improve on what you're talking about or what you see as a negative, there's no need for that comment. There's no need for that feedback. All that does is plant negativity. Feedback should never be personal. This isn't about the person. This isn't about the individual. This is about the learner trying to improve and grow. So try to keep your feedback on the things they can do to learn and improve. Never make it about the individual. Okay? This is why I highly encourage you throughout this process to avoid things like grammar and writing mechanics that are not necessarily related to content and that people tend to get very defensive about. So try to avoid some of those things. Feedback should point out what a student does well as areas of growth. We are always, as human beings, very good about giving critical feedback, about saying things that are wrong or we don't like or things that could be improved. We struggle sometimes with those positive things, with those things that people do well. We want to make sure that we're doing both of those throughout this process. Okay. Finally is be kind. People are opening themselves up on this process. People are being vulnerable. They're being open to feedback and open to criticism. When people do that, they need to know that it's safe. It's safe to do that. And so you must be kind and considerate when you are saying things that are areas of weakness, when you are pointing out areas of growth. You must be kind when you do that so that the person understands where you're coming from. Once again, high five. High five. All right. High five. Everybody, internet high five me? All right, right on, bro. All right. Expectations for receiving feedbacks. When you are receiving feedback, when someone is giving you suggestions about how to improve and what to do and how to be a better writer, what should you do? Assume good intentions, okay? And assume that the person on the other side of the screen or the other side of the internet from you is not out there to hurt you. They're out there to help you. They may not always communicate that well. They may not always say things you agree with, but assume that this is not a group of people who are targeting you and want to make you feel bad and want to make you feel insecure and want to put you down. That's not the case, okay? Assume good intentions and assume that they're here to help. Okay. Sometimes when we hear things that we don't want to hear, even though they may be true, and sometimes we get defensive and we internalize those things. Don't do that. Okay. Just assume that we're all here to help each other and we're all here to grow. Thoroughly consider the feedback. So don't just hear what you want to hear. Take in the feedback that you want or you like and dismiss the others. If you get feedback, consider all of it. Consider everything. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to follow through on it all. You have to decide what feedback to follow up on. But you need to be honest about that process. You need to be truthful with yourself when looking at feedback and not say, oh, well, I do that well. Think very hard and consider what you're saying and what you're writing and what that feedback is before you make that decision. All right, Taco and Pizza says, high five. All right, the specific process that we are going to use for feedback is called I like, I wonder, I have. This is a fairly well used process for giving and receiving feedback. I learned this from the Buck Institute for Education. I want to give props to the Buck Institute for helping me learn this. When we were developing curriculum for our project-based learning school, we learned this process of I like, I wonder, I have. I've taught it to my students. We've used it for a while now, and it's been a really good tool to help learn these things. So first is the I like section. Is the place where you give positive feedback on what the writer did well. Always do this section first. Always start with the I likes. It's always nice to hear that first. People are always more open to hearing some weaknesses if they've already been told that what they've done well, because then they're also putting aside some of those feelings that you're out to get them. All right? But once again, be specific, be considerate, be constructive, and be kind. The I wonder section is a section for things that are unclear, confusing, or need to be improved. Okay? So, not that it's wrong, but that it's unclear. Like so you might say something like, in this paragraph, when you're talking about dependency ratios, I'm not clear on your definition. Or, I'm confused on what you mean by this particular thing or these particular things. Could you clarify that in the future so that the writer understands what you're saying? Okay, so those are the kind of things that you want to say. Okay, and the third part is for what we call I haves. Now, I have section is for recommendation for a few specific things the writer can do to improve. Again, be specific. Hey, you might want to think about structuring your essay or your writing a little differently so that it is more clear. Or you may want to say things like, hey, this was a really great section. It might be better if you did this, this, and this, okay? Or this. So giving some very specific things that they can do to improve their writing as we're going through the process, okay? Once again, we're being considerate, we're being kind, and we're being thoughtful of what that person needs to really do better. Michael Jackson says high five. Super Friends, high five. This is the form, the format we're going to use. This is the form. It has 5 questions there that you can use to structure your feedback, to give thoughtful responses to others who are writing. You can see there's an I like, there's an I wonder, and there's an I have section. And you'll notice that we've given you lots of room to write in those sections, so we expect you to use complete sentences and kind of be very, to explain a lot. So don't just say good thesis. Say, here's why your introduction was good, blah, blah, blah. Or here is something you can do to improve this section. Or I was confused about this. And give good feedback. You may or may not ever have a chance to follow up with this person, or they may not ever have a chance to ask you questions about what did you mean by this, or what does this feedback mean. So make sure that your feedback is well written, well communicated, and as specific as you can the first time through to make sure that it is good. All right. So that wraps up this particular introductory video on feedback and how we're going to do that and its importance. So make sure that you spend some time looking at this process over and over again. We will come back to it repeatedly, so make sure that you understand it. Okay? All right, that's all for now, and I look forward to seeing you next time.